What's up, y'all? It's Gabe Vincent, Miami Heat guard. This is Just Hoop Talk.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Just Hoop Talk. You with Justin Henry, Will Thompson. Will, my man, the season is getting close to the end. How you feeling right now? Eastern Conference is set up, man.
It's heating up, man. I'm really excited. It's sad to see, as much as I'm happy the season is progressing, I'm sad that there's not as many games on as there used to be. I miss just being able to, put on I watch games on my iPad. I miss just being able to put it on and watch, 4 or 5 games a night. I miss that. But the quality of play is definitely stepping up, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you're not lying. We had a Game 7 for the ages, man. That Celtics-Toronto series was crazy. And we also saw one of the top seeds go down with the Bucks getting knocked off there by the Heat. But it's left for an intriguing matchup now. We got the Heat and the Celtics, man. What are your thoughts on this series overall?
The interesting thing about the series is it's so evenly matched, man. These teams are really similar. They're built kind of in the same way. They have a really similar culture. So I think we're going to be in for a really good matchup. I think it's, another thing I was thinking too is there's going to be some scraps, man. There's going to be some fights out there for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. And both these teams kind of got that dog. They don't quit. So I think it's setting up for probably one of the better matchups we've seen so far in this playoffs. But I think it'd be a good idea for us to just go over these teams in general, see what they're about, kind of really break down who does what well, and then pick a winner, man. That's what we're here to do. So Eastern Conference preview is here. Let us know if you like the content. Make sure you subscribe, like the channel. For all of our future videos, we got some amazing guests coming up, but let's get into it. Eastern Conference Finals. Let's start with the coaching, man. There's 2 really good coaches there on both ends of the floor. Who do you think has the advantage when it comes to coaching?
This is tough because I think you're looking at 2 really good, proven coaches in this league. We've seen Brad Stevens. He's the X and O guy, right? He can break it down. He's setting up great plays. He's like a basketball savant, man. But then you look at Spoelstra, and I'm going with Spoelstra with the advantage in this situation. And the reason I'm doing that is because of his experience. You look at a dude who's been there before, been to the Eastern Conference Finals, been to multiple championships. He has the advantage, I think, experience-wise. I think he'll have his guys more prepared for the moment. We know Brad Stevens has been to the Eastern Conference Finals, but never won it. So I'm giving the edge to Spoelstra just because of experience.
Yeah, he's been in this situation before. He's been to the finals. So I don't know, but I think that one thing that's really underrated about Brad Stevens is the way he gets his guys together collectively on the defensive end of the floor, and then they run the offense the right way. And I think it doesn't matter who comes into his system. He gets the most out of the players who buy in. And right now they have players who buy in. I'm going to give the edge to Brad Stevens. And it's not because of the experience. It's really just because I think players truly buy into his system. And you saw that even through the games that they played so far. It's like they trust the offense. The guys who come in off the bench, they step up when you get a Wanamaker in there, you get a Robert Williams in there on the defensive end of the floor. They step up and they make the plays when they're supposed to. In late game situations, he allows his players to do what they need to do to get buckets. So on that end of the floor, I am going to go with Brad Stevens coaching. I feel like that is, to me, I love what Spoelstra does. I think he's a great coach. I think the team is well prepared. But I'm going to give the edge to Brad Stevens.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Definitely a great coach. Really, his defensive mind is definitely underrated. But we got to talk about offense between these 2 teams. And so breaking it down offensively, where do you see an advantage? Who has the advantage offensively?
I'm going to give the advantage to the Celtics as well. I think that they have the same type of setup that the Heat have, where they have a majority ball handler. They have a good big who can run the floor. They got some strong defensive players who can also get buckets. But when you got a Kemba Walker, you got a Jason Tatum, you got a Jaylen Brown, kind of makes things a little bit hard. You can't just, the Heat have been, at least so far in the playoffs, they've had really one player that they needed to guard on the defensive side of the floor, and they're going to have to spread out against this team. They have individual great talent that can hit late game shots. They can all make individual plays. Their defenders, even like a Marcus Smart comes in and gets buckets. And if they happen to get Gordon Hayward back in this series, that might be another element that they have to deal with. I'm going to give the edge to the Celtics.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward will definitely be a difference maker for sure. I really like the Celtics high-level scores. I think they have probably more high-level scores than the Heat do. But I think looking at it as a volume, like the Heat have more scores, more consistent scores, more of those mid-level scores. So I look at guys like Jay Crowder, guys like Tyler Hero, who are emerging as really good scorers to go along with Jimmy Butler and to go along with Bam, who's starting to emerge himself as a legit scorer as well. So I think if I'm taking the Heat for the advantage just because of their depth and their overall scoring. If they're young guys, and not to forget Duncan Robinson as well.
Yep.
They're young, continue to step up and continue to score at a high level. I think they have more guys that can go out there and get buckets. So I'm giving them the advantage because of that.
Yeah, and like especially if you mentioned if one of their shooters gets hot, it's going to change the series, and especially if it's a Duncan Robinson or a Tyler Hero, who, like you mentioned, has really started to come on here in these playoffs, not just on the offensive side of the floor, but also on the defensive side of the floor in clutch situations as well. And I really want to go over some of this defensive side of the ball because I think we're getting an underrated side from both teams. Obviously, people didn't have the Miami Heat going to the finals. Majority didn't. And a lot of people think that the Celtics obviously run through just Jason Tatum and, Jaylen Brown, but they forget about the defensive side of the ball. Who do you think has the edge when it comes to defense?
I think the defensive matchup is going to be really intriguing in this series. I like the Celtics just overall team toughness defensively, but I think if you look at it at an individual basis, I really like the Heat, man. I love their diversity defensively. I love the fact that Bam can guard damn near 1 through 5. Jimmy Butler is so tough, he can almost guard 1 through 5. Yeah. And then they have a young dude like Tyler Hero who's just tough, man. Like, you can't, obviously you look at him, he's not the biggest built dude ever, but he's really tough defensively. Jay Crowder has been a great defender in the league for so long. I really like the Heat. Again, I like their depth defensively, and they can switch it up, man. They have guys who can guard multiple positions, who can step out. So, the Celtics like to do a lot of screen and rolls. Like, they have guys who can step up and they can switch defensively on screen and roll. So I'm really intrigued by this defensive matchup, but I'm going with the Heat with the advantage here.
Yeah, and I think the Heat, obviously on paper, look like probably the better defensive team. But I'm going to go with the Celtics, and it's because of the underratedness of the system. I think they have a really weak spot with Kemba defensively, honestly. But when you got guys like Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they can guard the positions 2 through 4. Actually, they can guard the 1, 2 if they really need to. And then you got Tyson and Robert Williams down low. Those guys are good, man. It's a good defensive setup, and I think that they play the paint really well. They play the perimeter really well. I don't know if they get the love that they deserve on the defensive side of the floor. We kind of talked about that with the coaching. I think that they have an underrated team when it comes to defense, and you're seeing Jason Tatum really take an effort to play defense on that side of the floor. So if he continues to do that, I think I would give them the edge when it comes to defense.
And these matchups are so damn close, bro. Like, everything we're talking about is so close. They're just minor things here and there are going to make a huge difference for both of these teams. So what do you think are going to be the X factors? Like, what is going to make that little bit of difference? I think we're probably looking at a 6 or 7 game series. What is going to be that 1 or 2 things that are the X factor that make that difference?
Dude, it is a close series, and I think we're really nitpicking here at both of these teams. Both of these teams have a chance to make the NBA Finals, win the championship, or at least put a good contested effort there. But I think what it gets down to is this: if the Heat hit their shots, they're going to be a big problem for the Celtics. I think the Celtics were able to keep up, make it a 7-game series, but they let the Toronto Raptors hang around for too long. They didn't really kill them. They didn't put their foot on their neck and eliminate them. The Raptors hung around, almost came back. If the Heat start hitting their shots, they're not going to have that opportunity. Duncan Robinson, Goran Dragic, we mentioned Kemba kind of being a little bit of a liability defensively. If Dragic gets hot, they're going to be a problem. If anybody off their bench, Tyler Hero comes in and starts hitting shots. We haven't even talked about the big guys when it comes to shooting, and Jimmy Butler and Bam. If they start hitting their shots, I think it'll be a key turning point for this series. So to me, if the Heat get locked in and actually shoot the ball really well, that's the biggest X factor.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna go a long way. What they do. The biggest difference for me is gonna be the guard play of the Celtics. It's really gonna be Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart, man. If Kemba can really be that all-star, we really haven't seen that yet from him in these playoffs, man. If Kemba can really emerge and step up as that all-star point guard that we know he is, if he's scoring 20 to 25 points a night, I think that's going to be a huge difference in the series. And then Marcus Smart just bringing his toughness, guarding every position, and if he's able to knock down shots, which we saw in a lot of spots against Toronto, that Celtics team is going to be tough to beat. So I'm looking at the guard play of the Celtics to make a huge difference in this series.
Yeah, because everybody talks about Tatum and Brown, and if Smart and Kemba really come in and play to their all-star level capability like they both have, it could shape the series, man. So obviously we've talked about the coaching, we've talked about the offensive impact, defensive impact. Let's just get to it, man. Who do you think wins this series?
I'm going with the Heat. I think the Heat have just their depth and their overall toughness. I can't. I'm going with the Heat. It's hard for me to see them losing. If they're able to stay hot and their young guys are scoring, coming off the bench, getting buckets, Dragic getting buckets, they're going to be really tough to beat. So I'm going with the Heat, man.
Yeah, I can see, the Heat taking a strong run. And like I mentioned earlier with the X Factor, if they get hot shooting, it'll be probably a quicker series than people think. But I'm going to give the edge to the Celtics. I think that just overall, they have the ability. And what we're witnessing right now at Jason Tatum kind of taking that next step and becoming the superstar that everybody's been talking about and actually seeing it in action, I think his ability to just make tough shots makes them a hard team to knock out. Even with the defense that Miami has, and even with some of the ability to score the basketball like they have, I feel like that's when it gets down to it. You're picking close teams. You want to go with who can hit that shot when you need it most. And right now, Jason Tatum has shown that ability to make it tough or not.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't touch on is just like that matchup between Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler, right? These are the two superstars. These are the guys who make these teams go. That's going to be a huge matchup to look at going forward. Like, who's the true superstar? Who's the dude that's going to take their team to that next level? Because we talked about the other guys doing the other things, but the superstars at the end of the day are going to make the biggest difference for sure.
And that could be who runs the East for the next couple of years, man, because honestly, if Giannis, something happens with him, one of those teams is going to have to step up and kind of take the crown, man. The Toronto Raptors got knocked out by the Celtics, so it's really looking like this could be a team that runs it for the next 2 or 3 years. So we'll see, man. It'll be an exciting series, and hopefully we're watching 7 games of close overtime, knockdown, game-winning shot basketball, man. That would be ideal. So anyway, let us know your thoughts. Let us know, who do you got? Heat, Celtics. Let us know in the comments if you agree with our takes, you disagree with us. Let us know. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got some more on the way. Western Conference preview. And yeah, man, that was a good episode. Loved it. Yes, sir.
For more NBA, college, and hoops coverage, be sure to subscribe to Just Hoop Talk podcast on YouTube and all streaming platforms.